If you would like to support this podcast, subscribing to the channel and sharing with others is a free way to do so. You can also leave feedback in the comments below or join my Discord. Disclaimer: this podcast is largely based on experience and opinion. Your own may differ. Please be respectful if you'd like to voice this. Also keep in mind this season was recorded in July and August of 2022, so information may be outdated or the guests may have differing opinions in the future. Welcome back everyone to Say Chat. We're here to join the conversation about World vs. World Commanding once again. We reached the end of Season 1, or we're reaching the end of Season 1. It's been a long journey, and we're kind of getting to the meatier subjects now, I guess you can say, the ones that are really important and people are looking forward to. That kind of means that we need to take these ones a lot more seriously, especially today's subject, which revolves around commander mindset, specifically because I feel like mindset is very individually based. It's individually driven and it has a lot of different things that motivate and influence and stuff like that. But even with that said, I still feel like there's some overlap in commander mindset that generally makes commanders commanders. We've talked about this in past podcasts or past episodes, right? The natural commander versus a practice commander and stuff like that. And I told everyone that we would be bringing that up today, which we're going to. But before that, I would like someone to kind of just give us an idea of what commander mindset is. What most people view or most commanders view their mindset as. And I know that that's kind of like a really hard task because mindset can be a lot of different things. But Chef, if you can just generalize what you think a commander mindset is, what it might look like, and what goes into it, I think we would all be very grateful for that because everyone views mindset differently, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I'll preface this with saying that it's going to depend on what kind of group that you want to run in World versus World. My experience is leading smaller size groups, primarily oriented around fighting. That's not the only way to play World versus World. Maybe you're going to pug tag and you're going to have like 50 people in squad. Maybe you're going to K-train, it's like 15 people. They're, good friends of yours and you're just hanging out. So I'll try to keep it to general stuff that's going to apply to the bulk of commanders rather than just talking about what my own mindset is for my own style of fights. And I think the biggest thing that it took me a little bit to kind of like get my head around is that playing your character is actually like one of the less important things about commanding. So it's important to like know where your stun breaks are, know where your damage mitigation is. But in my experience, playing classes that I'm really experienced on actually makes commanding harder because I focus too much on playing the class and I don't focus enough on playing the squad. And what I mean by that is that when you're commanding, you're kind of a conductor of a bunch of different people. So you're setting the pace and the cadence of your raid. You're coming up with fun things to talk about in between fights. When you're in fights, you're primarily in charge of keeping track of where other groups are moving so that you don't get caught by surprise by a group that stealths or a second group that comes up behind you. And all of these things are kind of going on so that you can make sure that you're putting your squad in the best position possible to either take these fights or get out of these fights without, getting everyone killed by some blunder or mistake. So when you fold all of that stuff in, I found that I got better, at least at my level of commanding, and I'm not going to make any kind of claims that I'm a good commander, but I definitely noticed my commanding improved when I thought less about my class and I thought more about my squad. And I think that's a big adjustment for people to make who are really used to focusing on what their class does and specific mechanics and how they avoid those mechanics. And that's still kind of important, but it's greatly diminished when you're doing commanding in World versus World because you're accountable for your squad as a whole rather than just you as an individual player.
So what I'm hearing is that your mindset and the one that you have developed is looking away from you individually as a player and looking more at the group, which I can agree is really important, especially as a commander, right? So my question goes out to the rest of the panel. Whoever would like to speak on this, you are definitely allowed to jump. With that in mind, with what Chef said in mind, we're looking more at the group instead of like our individual play. What else do you think goes into commander mindset? Is there a certain like frame of mind you need to have? I know in past episodes we've mentioned that commanders need to be leaders. They need to be confident. They need to be all of these different things. Like, what do you think goes into the commander mindset? Breaking down, like, after we're not looking at ourselves individually anymore, we have to look at ourselves as a group. What do you think goes? What else do you think goes into it?
So I have a very unique take. Talked about this in previous episodes. One of the things that I do that's very different, Steph said it interestingly, as a conductor. I have a heavy background in RTS games. So I think of when I command as almost like an RTS game, where I don't just do fights. I end up doing PPT, and I also end up doing fights as well. Really depends on the time of day and who we're fighting. I tend to take everything as, what is the opponent going to do? I always tend to think of like, what is my opponent going to do? Are they trying to fight? Where are they going to fight? What's an advantageous place to fight if they're going to? Are they bigger than us? How much, like, are they comped? Are they on comms? There's all these things that I think about all the time. But I have that heavy background in playing like Warcraft 3 and StarCraft 2. So that's what I used to do when I played those competitively. You always think, what is going to happen? You scout, figure out, what are they building? All right, what do I got to do to beat that? And I tend to take that into from PPT, if it's from fighting, if it's from everything. And I would say that that's probably one of the best things that I have, and I think that a lot of people should take, even if you haven't played a RTS game, try to think ahead. Especially if you fight people multiple times and you learn a pattern, use that pattern against them. Because a lot of people like to do the same things. They don't like to shake it up unless they're losing or they feel like they have to, but then you can use that to your...
Okay. Holy and Globe, do you guys want to jump in with what you think your commander mindset, what goes into it, and what it looks like?
My question in regards to that is it my personal commander mindset or just like in general?
I
think it could be a bit of both.
Yeah, I would like to know a little bit of both personally. I think that when we break it down, I think that a lot of you are going to have similar mindsets in the end, because my theory is that all commanders actually have these overlapping elements in their mindsets. Like, they're all leaders, whether that has to be developed or it's natural, which we're going to be talking about later on, because that is a conversation we all wanted to have. The ability to grind things out, like keep going, things like that. I think all of you guys are going to end up having the same mindset with things. So let's start with your own, like, what goes into your mindset specifically, and then maybe we can break it down with what generally you think most commanders that you've been around have a mindset, because already we're seeing an overlap in, we are thinking about the group, we are thinking about outside elements more than ourselves, and I think that's like a huge aspect of being a leader in the game mode. So yeah, let's just go with your own mindset first.
Sure. So my commander mindset really shifts throughout the day, or I guess depending on the day or situation while I'm commanding. Number one is expect to lose. Expect to, I guess, wipe your squad, because, stuff happens. And, following up that mindset, a lot of times I try to see like what was the problem? Who's at fault? Is it my fault? Is it my squad's fault? But at the end of the day, I feel like that's not really a good mindset, to be honest. You're dealing with World versus World, which is a squad of like multiple different people. And on top of that, you're being thrown multiple different elements and scenarios during the fight. You can't, it's difficult. It can be difficult to isolate what went wrong. So if you're commanding and you feel like you're losing a lot, or you're banging your head on a wall, you just keep going up to this group and wiping over and over again. Number one, you need to, relax, stay calm. I think that's the ideal mindset for me personally. That's how I play, personally speaking. I'm not the aggressive type of person that would like get really angry and rage and yell at people, because at the end of the game, this is just a game. You're just here to have fun, really. So that's my mindset, is to have fun. So following that, if you're in a situation where you keep losing, I definitely recommend you switch maps or go do something else, like hit a camp or hit like a paper tower. If you're having a hard time dealing with like a more experienced or a difficult enemy group, it's okay to step away from it. I mean, don't feel bad that you're losing all the time or that you're wiping, because it's a learning progress. Like, you have to learn as a commander, and then your squad has to learn. Your squad has to learn, I guess, their responsibilities depending on what class they're playing. And beyond classes, it's and the thing I keep saying, movement, positioning, and reaction. Oh boy, I could say that forever and ever, and people still don't get it. And it's interesting. I want to also comment on what Chef said earlier, that when he's commanding, I guess like on his main class, he's focused on like his personal class, like what he's playing. I'm the opposite, actually. I main Firebrand, right? When I command as a Firebrand, my Firebrand skills lowers because I don't pay attention anymore about any of that. I'm too focused on like the big picture, the the actual squads fighting each other. Whether that's the terrain, the environment, the positioning, the movement, location, that kind of stuff.
It's so hard to play your class well and command at the same time unless you have like years of muscle memory on both being a commander and on the class that you're trying to command on. Like, it's really, really hard.
Yeah, agreed. And it's interesting for me because I know that when I tag up as a Firebrand, there are other Firebrands playing, and I can kind of tell, who's doing good versus who's doing, I guess, bad. I mean, I'm not going to say they're bad, but they're not doing as good as other Firebrands. What I do to help that, and this is some things that I sometimes do, I don't do it all the times, is while I'm commanding, I'm also shouting the skills that I'm clicking, or I guess pressing, I should say. I don't click my skills, by the way. So I'll be like, okay, Firebrands, I'm going to F3 right now, skill 5, skill 4, and that kind of stuff. I would call them out, and that's a way for me to train people that are interested in learning how to be Firebrand. Regardless if they ask me or not, if I can provide training, I just do it. Because you know what? I know people are shy. They don't want to like say like, "Oh, I'm new," or "I'm trying to learn Firebrand." I just do it.
So
I guess that's a good way to start it.
I'm going to put a pin in that because I think that actually is really good advice that we should put into the last episode of the season. If you want to bring it back up in advice for new commanders, advice for starting out, I think that would be amazing to go in there. Because I think that's really important. Calling out your skills, communicating, things like that are essential for commanders, right? So
yeah,
I'm going to pull it back into mindsets now and ask Globe kind of what goes into your mindset. I know that you have a lot of experience in other game modes and you've been kind of channeling that into World versus World. So I think your answer is going to be kind of interesting. Like, what goes into your mindset in like leading and all that stuff?
To be fair, mindset-wise, isn't that much different from PvE, for example, but it's not also much different from what the others said. For example, Saw said you do need to look at your squad and yourself. You have to also look at basically what you can do as a squad and so on. That does really channel well in PvE as well, because you do need to firstly, if you're winning, see why you're winning and continue to win, obviously. But if you're losing, you need to reflect on what you're doing wrong. Don't get too caught up in it, but be able to figure it out and hopefully win next time if you can. That goes well into the actual mindset as well, because obviously when it comes down to it, you and the squad want to win, don't they?
It's true. It's true. That definitely is like the nitty gritty, get down to the basics. Like, if you can explain commanding in one sentence, is that you want to win generally. I don't think you're having much fun if you're plowing endlessly into something and not learning or, winning at some point in time. The end goal is, busting the other Zerg or capturing the keep or, all of that stuff.
Or just having fun also.
Yeah, or just having fun also. I feel like a lot of people get discouraged, though, when they're constantly, like, hitting their head against a wall and not doing well against another specific group. Obviously, you guys would have to speak on this more because I don't command myself, but that is my general opinion as a pleb.
It's a really difficult balance because you learn a lot more from losing than from winning, but it's also really hard to keep the motivation going to lose multiple fights and see yourself improving, but then have people, start to get frustrated with losing fights end over end. And that's why I think it was a really good suggestion to sometimes like just pull off, do that mind reset, go like flip a tower, take 5 minutes to grab a drink and come back and let people kind of refresh, because you also don't play at your best when you're losing a bunch of fights in a row. So it's this really delicate balance between like taking hard and challenging fights because that's how you improve, but also making sure that you don't grind your squad into the ground by taking fights that are too hard without giving them a chance to kind of like digest and process and improve on the things that are going wrong.
I have a problem somewhat with this, where I come from mythic raiding background, so I can bust my head over and over and over again with a fight, especially I'm losing. And I feel like a anime main character almost, where it's like I'm learning, I'm getting better. I'm trying to understand exactly what is happening, what's the all the stuff that goes through my head. How do we deal with this? What is happening? A lot of people don't like that, and they're not used to that. And so like I can lose over and over and still have fun. But not everyone can do that.
Yeah, in FPS games they have this thing. They literally have a name for this. It's called tilt queuing. It's when you're tilted, but you still continue to queue up into games and stuff like that, and things just progressively get worse, and your mindset gets worse and worse. So, KAHMEENA, you don't have that, but all the other people in your squad do. So it's like they're tilt queuing, and you're just kind of like, how am I figuring this out? How am I figuring this out? So yeah, that is definitely an interesting balance for you.
I like to think, I said this before, I think, but I've said it to you all like individually. Like, I like to take encounters like puzzles, right? Like, how do I solve the puzzle? There's always a way to solve the puzzle. How do you solve it? The answer might be, I don't have the ability to beat it, but I can solve the puzzle. I know that a lot of people don't have a simple how to do it. And it's that mindset I need to at least to diet down just a little bit.
I don't specifically know if you need to change it. I actually think it's kind of a good thing that you have the patience to keep going and stuff like that. I have incredibly high patience also, so like tilt queuing isn't really something that I deal with a lot of the time, because if I need to, I'll step back and I won't play type thing. but it is something you need to be conscious of because, like it was mentioned before by Chef and yourself, and I think Holy and Globe also kind of mentioned it, but you have to look outside yourself and you have to be more conscious of everyone. With that being said, since we're bringing it back to more commander mindsets and stuff like that, I would like to ask another question of you guys, if that's all right. We've all kind of shared what goes into our own individual commander mindsets. So I'm wondering if you guys could speak on like overlapping elements that all commanders tend to have. Leadership qualities, being able to reset, all of this stuff, like having the drive to keep going. Like, what do you think are the elements that all commanders should have or should be progressively working on during their journey of becoming better commanders? Like, what are the essential things that you need to have going into your mindset type thing?
So I was going to say patience, and then I thought about it for like 2 seconds, and the two commanders that I run with the most are probably Ruthless in KNT and King Bullyfoot in Hate, and both of them are two of the most impatient commanders that I know. So now I'm like not sure if that's actually true or not. It sounded really good in my head, but I don't know if it's such a unifying theme. And I wonder what other people think. Like,
Right.
Do you feel like patience is important for commanding or not?
When you say patience, are you defining patience as the patience of you dealing with your personal squad, the players, or are you talking about patience as in, in a fight, do I wait to attack or do I just charge in?
Both, but primarily the former.
Okay. I think the thing, generally speaking, that all commanders have is a mindset to win. It's a competitive game mode. Of course, you're playing this game to win. So, every group does something different to win. Whether that's running all meta, all on voice, etc. That's how I see it. That's why we're playing this game, is to win.
Mine's interesting. I mean, yeah, I have the want to win, and I think every commander should have the want to win. Like, I think of comps that, like, how can I beat this bomb comp? What unique secret tech can I think of to beat this, or what things do I think that I know that not a lot of people can beat this, so they won't expect it. But I would say that, like, something that every commander should have, not that I don't think patience is the right word, but I think having the mindset of basically, I think that, like, being able to lead in of itself is just, it's something that's hard because people are just not everybody can lead, right? Not everyone has that ability to, some people just want to follow, like, just straight up. And it's something that I think every commander has, even if they don't hop into Discord or tag, that just putting up that badge is something that shows that, like, you're ready to take whatever is given at you. And that's something that I think is unnoticed. I give a lot of respect to every single commander, from here to the people listening to whatever, even because it's hard. So that's what I would say.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good answer. To go back to kind of what Holy was saying in regards to Chef's thing, I'm going to translate that kind of as everybody wants to win, so everybody's patience level kind of is dependent on that person's reaction to whether they're winning or losing. Is kind of what I got from that.
Can I attempt to refine it?
Yeah, you're more than welcome to.
I think I figured it out over the course of Holy and KAHMEENA talking about it. And I think what it is that you as a commander need to be more patient than your squad. So KAHMEENA's got this outlook where, he can bash his head against a group for hours. And that's great. And it's absolutely true that, like, not every person following your squad is going to be down with that. But I think it's a bigger issue when people in your squad want to take the fight and they want to keep going even if they're losing, and you as the commander are like, I'm too discouraged, like, I'm on till there's nothing productive happening here. I think the former is okay when the commander wants to keep going and the squad is like, nah, we can't quite handle that. But I think it's an issue for overall enjoyment of the game when the squad wants to keep going and the commander gets too tilted to try and keep trying. So I think that is what this patience take has turned out to be, is you have to be more patient than your squad in order to have a productive experience commanding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Globe, do you want to put in your 2 cents on the conversation?
I mean, most of it already been covered, I will say. Like, patience-wise, I do want to add that depending on how experienced of a squad you have, you might have less or more patience with them. So that is also a big factor. Obviously, if someone's running with an organized group, with an organized squad, basically, obviously you won't have as much patience with them as when you're just tagged up on EB, for example. So it is also a big factor of, hey, who did I join? Is that person try hard? Are they on voice? Are they really wanting to win? Or are they just chilling around, just helping other people and so on?
So it's kind of about reading the group's intentions, is what you're saying.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
got to know the people that you run with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That kind of
Something
goes
that you will learn over
into
time.
yeah, that kind of goes into leadership, I suppose, right? Which brings us into, I've mentioned it a couple of times now, and I'm really, like, this conversation specifically, I really want to dive into, but we are reaching kind of the 30-minute mark on the recording, so we may have to kind of generalize, I suppose. But in terms of leadership, in another episode in this season, it was brought up that commanders have to be these specific types of people, these leaders, right? They have to be, and anyone else who doesn't fit into this type of thing isn't able to command because they have to be these specific type of people. And I know that this is actually a I can't say misconception, but that shows my bias, but it's actually something that goes around the community a lot, right? Like in Indo's podcast, he is under the assumption that all commanders are generally in managerial type roles type thing. You know, when he gets commanders onto his podcast, he always asks, what do you do IRL? Are you like a manager role? Because I've noticed that all commanders are generally a manager type person in real life. That's why it translates over so well. But do you guys think they have to be these specific types of people? Or do you think that this is skills that can be developed? And if someone actually wants to command that may not fall into this specific, like, leadership, I'm good at leadership type personality, that it can be worked on and it can be formed and stuff like that? Or do you think absolutely not? Like, you have to be this person right out of the bat. What do you guys think?
I'll go on the record and say that I don't agree with Indo. So let's start with like the spiciest take, and then we can work our way back from there.
Okay.
Also, this is going to be general life advice. This is not going to be world versus world commanding advice, though it definitely applies to world versus world commanding. So if you're in need of life guidance, get your notebook out. Anyone can be proficient at anything. It's true. It is like a true fact of life. If you want to be good at X thing, you can absolutely be good at X thing. The power lies within you. The difference is that for some people, it's going to take a very long time because the skills don't come naturally to them. And for some people, it's going to be very easy. And so I think the calculus that you need to solve when you're figuring out, do I want to be a world versus world commander, is you need to do it for a little bit. You need to figure out how long it's going to take you to get to a level of skill that you want to have. And then you need to figure out if it's going to be worth it to do that grind. And I think for people who are in managerial roles, who already have a lot of the skill sets that are going to be important for world versus world, that process is going to come really easily to them. So, I think Indo's definitely onto something when he says that people who have managerial skills and are in managerial positions tend to make good commanders. But I think the reason for that is because people who do not have a lot of managerial skills look at commanding and go, it's going to take me a long time to get good at this, to feel like I'm proficient, and I don't know that I can commit the time.
That's fair. Yeah, that's definitely fair.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I talked a little bit about this just before. It takes somebody to be able to have that, like, shake off the fear, get the tag, and start doing it. Because a lot of people are scared to do it for whatever reasons, and from like, oh, I don't know if I'll be good enough. Oh, I don't know, like I don't want to, let people down, or I don't, wipe groups, and a lot of that stuff you have to deal with the managerial role. So I kind of understand it, but I think every single person can do it. I agree with Chef. Like, I think everyone can do it. You just have to have the mindset of I want to get better, regardless of how long it takes. You have to have that mindset. If you don't have that mindset, you have to find it. I think you can find it at any point. I don't think you can just never have it, but it's something that you have to want. Once you want it, you can do it.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm a firm believer that anyone can command World versus World. Although we do need to define, I guess, different levels of commanding. Because when people talk about commanding, like, or the phrase, oh, too scared to command, or not brave enough, or not experienced enough, or whatever, or not well known, you're talking about public Zerg commanding. But technically speaking, you can command like 3 people or like 5 people. Like,
Yeah.
let's say you're havocing or roaming, like a group of 5 that are havocing or roaming or whatever, just flipping camps. One of those 5 people is the leader of that squad. That's the commander. And so that's why ANA implemented this private squad system. Now, with that being said, again, anyone can command. Gosh, what was I gonna say?
As you're out here defending
I know.
private squads, so toxic, so exclusive.
No. I'm not defending private squad. It's just interesting that we're talking about this because again, we're not. I feel like we're not thinking or talking about like those other like smaller groups, like the havocing groups, the roaming groups.
I mean,
I think we are.
yeah,
Go ahead,
what
KAHMEENA.
I said honestly still applies to that, right? Like, there's people that I know that they'll be put into a league, regardless if it's 5 people, if it's a closed squad and it's 10 people, don't know how to.
Yeah.
Right, so
I
it doesn't matter the size.
I want to get away from the word scared because I don't necessarily agree with that. But I think it's like, if you're a guy and you're hanging out with 4 of your friends and you want to go like flip a camp or a tower or something, somebody's got to call the shots.
Yeah.
Like, that, definitely true. But I think there can definitely be some aversion to that where you're like, well, I, as one of the 5 people in this squad, I don't know if I really like have the skills to do that. I've never really done that before. I'm not sure what goes into it. So I'm going to like wait for someone else to speak up. And if nobody speaks up, maybe that entire group is like, well, maybe we go find something else to do. I don't think that's tied to fear. I think it's tied to not having the confidence or the mindset to just go and like do the thing and start learning it.
Okay,
Yeah.
that I can agree with because
Yeah, so that's.
go ahead.
I agree. No, I was gonna say I agree because I said the mindset and the confidence. I got to stop using scared because I think it's something, but it's not everybody, and I agree.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
not
that's the
a
perfect way
fear
to say
thing.
it.
It's a competency thing. It's like,
Yeah.
do I feel like I'm able to do this?
It's all so what's being said is that it all comes down to your confidence, right? Your confidence in your
Yeah.
skills, because if you don't have the confidence, there's a lot of anxiety that goes into, right? There's tons of anxiety, and I feel like when we talk about commanding in anything Guild Wars 2, the biggest thing that holds people back is their anxiety, right? When you say or when you talk to people or ask the question, why aren't you tagging up as a commander? 9 times out of 10, I feel like they're going to say there's a lot of anxiety that goes into tagging. I get anxious thinking about tagging, all of this stuff. And that's game wide. And honestly, it's even like life wide. Like, there's a lot of anxiety in leadership and stuff like that. So that's actually a really interesting conversation. And I want to keep going, but I'm going to wrap it up there. And I'm going to have this conversation carry over to the next episode because this flows really well into the next episode's conversation because it will be all about lack of commanders. And obviously anxiety and having the confidence to tag up is one of the biggest issues we have with not having commanders, right? So I'm going to throw it over to you guys one more time before I say goodbye to everyone in chat and stuff like that. If you could sum up in a sentence or two what you think after this whole conversation, the biggest things people, or the biggest mindset or elements of a mindset that commanders could have, that's either you have or you're working on, what do you think those elements would?
I think we finally hit on it in like the last 5 minutes, that it comes down to confidence. You know, if you're not confident in yourself and not necessarily in your ability to lead well, because everyone who started out commanding really badly. Like, everyone did. They were all starting from a lack of knowledge. But if you don't have the confidence to put the time in to work on improving and getting better, then I think that's one of the differences between, you know, that and people who are tagged up right now.
No, I agree with that wholeheartedly. You know, I believe in everybody. I think everybody can do it, and I believe all of you can do it.
This
if
is
you want
some
to. And I
good encouragement right there. Real good encouragement.
Globe, you haven't spoken in a while, so what do you think?
I just spoke though.
No, I mean, other than your little banter, because I do appreciate your banter, but like, subject-wise, what do you think? What do you think are the biggest elements of mindset that people should kind of be working on or have?
I mean, I would say that the biggest ones to develop, obviously, confidence was the one already said. But another one that comes to my mind is just think logically and have fun. Because no matter if you tag up, no matter if you don't tag up, you will want to have fun, won't you? Unless everything will be stale and hey, why are you even playing the game then? And also just thinking logically. I guess that is also a logical thing to say because, you basically, once you also think, you don't just want to be like, okay, I'm just gonna straight up run there. And that's an enemy bomb.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Holy, you're last.
My closing statement is: be prepared to take the heat, have thick skin, and realize that can't be everywhere all at once. Can't do everything, you know. And you know, I guess pay attention to what team chat's saying. I guess be aware of what objective is being pushed. Don't just ignore things, you know. I don't know.
Definitely work on that.
Okay. I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. To summarize, I think the biggest takeaways that we have is going into it, you just need to be open. Once you get the confidence to tag up, you need to be open to all of the different elements and learning, and you need to have the patience to keep going, but you also need to be conscious of the group that you're with. Right? So it's a lot of moving parts that go into commander mindset. And I know this conversation was kind of all over the place and stuff like that, but I think we kind of covered a lot of really good things for people, especially for new commanders and stuff like that. But anyway, with that, if you guys are listening on YouTube, please like and subscribe, share with any friends that you'd like to, or you think would enjoy the conversations that we're having for the rest of the Say Chat season that we've had. But yeah.